Last year, in 2024, our reps generated over $36 million in commissions. My name is Dylan Reeve, and I make these videos absolutely free. I don't want you to buy anything from me. I want you to do better at building, managing, and scaling sales teams. That way, more people want to get into sales, and my companies can be more successful. Now, the point of this video today is the best commission structure for building and scaling a 7 or even 8-figure sales team. Now, for example, what we're going to use is a case study from the most recent portfolio company or sales team that I've been scaling, which has gone from 0 to 7 figures in 30 days. Now, to you, that might sound unreal, unbelievable, whatever. It wasn't just 30 days. There was 6 months of planning, prepping, building, scaling, leading up to this point, and ensuring that we were going to have an incredible first 30-day launch. But point being, we did hit 0 to 7 figures in 30 days. I'll drop something over here. Now, when it comes to the best commission structure, in order to do that, I would 100% 10 times out of 10 say commission only. Now, the reason I would say that is because when it comes to eliminating risk, ensuring high profitability, ensuring speed, commission only is going to be the best in all of those categories. Now, long term, I think it presents a lot more threats to your brand, or a lot more, opportunities for things to go wrong. However, with a very strong leadership foundation, standards that are held, culture, and high quality assurance systems that ensure you know what's going on without having to watch everybody, then 10 times out of 10, again, I would recommend commission only. Now, if you don't have those things, salary plus commission can be a little bit safer and a little bit smarter, honestly, if you don't have some of those things. But in order to build the best sales team, I would recommend you have all of those things in place. A, that's why B, I would recommend commission only. Now, why commission only? Outside of, it being quicker, it being something that can eliminate your risk. So commission only does a few things. Again, it increases the speed of growth, it increases the overall size that you can grow to, and lastly, C, it decreases the amount of risk that you have to take on as a business owner. Now, when it comes to how to structure a commission-only sales team, there are tons of videos that I've put out as to what's important, why it's important, etc. There are two things that I'm going to emphasize real quick before we get into how to actually set up your structure. A, you need to put only the highest quality talent in this vehicle, because anything less is going to drastically lower your revenue, your profitability, their success, your brand. It's going to lower everything. Now, the second half of that is having standards that you hold people to and you continuously hold people to. If you don't do that, then getting a team past 7 or 8 figures is going to be very difficult. I'm not saying you can't get to 7 or 8, but getting past that point is going to be near impossible. Now, when it comes to the actual structure behind setting up your commission or your comp plan, there's a couple key ingredients with commission only. One is some sort of hard stop in which people never surpass. There needs to be a max commission. That max commission needs to ensure that you're still profitable to an extent which makes sense for you as a business owner. Or what'll happen is someone reaches the max, it doesn't make sense for you, you have to fire them, you have to terminate them, you have to lower their commission, whatever it is, and it's a shit show. However, if you set that max in an area where you're always going to have that profit and you're going to avoid what is called compression, then you are always going to have this massive value gap that you're supplying them and they're getting from you. Now, it's not the only way that you can increase the level of value that they perceive, or you can increase their actual compensation. But that is something that you need to have in a commission-only structure, is a hard stop on commissions, what that percentage looks like. Now, beyond that point, let's say you want to continuously make them money, you can give them ownership options, equity, stock options. There's so many different ways that you can do it. Point being, there needs to be a limit to the actual percentage. Now, once you have a limit to that percentage, you also need to have a minimum, and a minimum that is going to account for being ultra competitive within your market. What I would like to consider ultra competitive is 2 to 3 times higher than what the average person in your market is making. And that doesn't have to just be commission level. Again, you can increase that value, substance value that they're getting from it in more ways than just commission. You can give them better leads, more sales opportunities. Tons of different ways that you can help them make 2 to 3 times more than the competitor outside of that minimum commission rate. But again, point being, you want a minimum commission rate plus whatever other assets that you're adding to ensure that you're going to be 2 to 3 times higher than your competitors. Now, once you got your max, once you got your minimum, you got to figure out your in between. Now, that part is honestly super simple. That's where you literally just crunch numbers, you do math, and you see what is reasonable in order to escalate and get someone that is continuously motivated and incentivized to push further. What I would always recommend is smaller increments. More achievements and more milestones is better than fewer milestones, even if they're more meaningful. 9 times out of 10 when it comes to like the instant gratification society that we're in. Now, once you got your minimum, you got your in between, you got your max, that's when you can start working on what other things you can add and still be very profitable. What you can do, some simple math or some simple equations that you can put together is, all right, I know that a sales rep on average is going to make me this much money top line. I know that after all the expenses I have right now, I'm gonna have this much profit left over. So this profit is now what I have to play with for my compensation plan and the extra things that I add to make them successful. So what I like to call this profit number here is your lifetime gross profit on a rep. So again, say for example, we'll use real numbers here. A rep on average makes you $1 million over the entire span that they're with you. And let's put a number on that. Let's say it's 12 months on average. Now, let's say that in hard costs to service these sales, it's going to cost you $200,000. This is your cost of goods sold. Now, your operating expenses, this is what you have before you have your gross profit. So these operating expenses here are what you have to play with in order to bring on reps, pay them, etc. So let's say, for example, that you spend $200,000 of your million, you have $800,000 to play with over the course of a rep's lifetime, 12 months, to make them successful and bring them in to begin with. And then everything else left over is going to be your lifetime gross profit. Now, that lifetime gross profit number is everything that gives you a very clear, crystal clear image as to, hey, if I bring in a new rep, this is how much money I'm gonna get in my pocket. And that gives you a very clear idea as to what extra or what other things you could do to continuously bring in new reps, the best reps, provide them more value, make them more money, etc. So that's the only really KPI you need to know or track in order to understand your compensation plan and how to structure it. And it's really that simple in setting up your compensation plan. Now, one other thing I will give you before we wrap up this video is far too often I see people within industries when they're trying to headhunt talent within a certain space, just try to offer the most amount of money. And offering the most amount of money is something that works. Quite frankly, it always is gonna work. But offering the most amount of value outside of just the money is really the secret sauce in unlocking long-term scalability and high quality retention. And that's because if it's just money, whoever offers them more money is going to get them next. So that is the last thing I will leave you with. When it comes to setting up your compensation structure, again, commission only can be a great thing. I would say 90% of the times the companies that do it aren't doing it well, shouldn't be doing it in the first place, or just all in all are setting a bad standard for everyone else. But I think if you do get it right and you're in that top 10%, you're gonna unlock quicker growth, more sustainable growth, less risky growth, and larger overall growth than a salary plus compensation model.